Hey students, welcome to your Transcendentalism introduction video. To spice the video up a little, I decided to turn it into a game. Is it Gothic or is it Transcendental? But before we begin the game, let's talk a little bit about what Transcendentalism is so that you stand a chance. All right, so Transcendentalism and Gothic literature occurred during the Romantic Age, which goes from 1820 to 1865. So it follows the Age of Enlightenment, also sometimes called the Revolutionary Period, and it precedes the Age of Realism. And all of these are in reaction to each other. So the Age of Enlightenment or the Revolutionary Period is marked by the Revolutionary War, which resulted in this brand new country founded on democratic ideals, and there seemed like there was endless possibilities of what could be. And so because of those endless possibilities, it led to a very romantic sentiment in the United States, and that led to Romantic literature, which is the very first literary period in which fiction writing really took a strong hold. Then we have the Age of Realism, which is a reaction to the Romantic period. It's a reaction against. So we have the Civil War, which was an incredibly bloody war that happened on US soil. And because of that, this feeling of romance eroded and essentially disappeared. And we entered into a time of realism in which the literature was, as the name suggests, starkly realistic. But in between those, we have the Romantic Age, and that's where we're focusing for this video. So there is two types of romantics. The dark romantics are the Gothic writers, and then the transcendental romantics. And so with Gothic writers, their characters were haunted, alienated individuals. The writing was moody, dark and foreboding. Themes included exploration of the hidden recesses of the soul. Motifs included nature is dangerous, it's out to get you. It includes themes of forebodingness and fascination with the supernatural. And then for transcendental romantics, it's very different. So it's in tune with the optimism of the growing nation. It valued the beauty of nature, solitude, nonconformity, and the individual. So quite different. And we have Poe and nature. So, not quite yet. So Transcendentalism had many authors, but there's three primary ones that we are concerned with, and it's these three gentlemen. And so what do all of these gentlemen have in common? They do all have some pretty snazzy hair. Here we have some really nice sideburns. Here we have this epic under the chin beard, and here we have a beautiful full beard. But what all these men have in common is that they are transcendental writers. Here we have Ralph Waldo Emerson. He was considered the father of transcendentalism, so he kind of founded the philosophy. And that's an important thing to note, that transcendentalism was a philosophy. For Gothic writing, it was a style of writing that had specific characteristics that kind of created what Gothic writing is. Transcendentalism isn't just a set of stylistic characteristics that we find in writing. It's an actual philosophy that people developed, and therefore it was a way of living, and they wrote about their philosophy. So Gothic writing is going to be fiction and follow a set of stylistic kind of elements, and Transcendentalism is going to be a way of life, a philosophy that results in nonfiction writing. And so Ralph Waldo Emerson was the father of this philosophy of Transcendentalism, and then we have Henry David Thoreau, which was kind of like Emerson's little sidekick. They were like really good friends, and Emerson bailed Thoreau out of jail when Thoreau refused to pay his taxes because he didn't think it was very transcendental. And it was for much more complex reasons than that. But essentially, these two guys were buddies. And then we have Walt Whitman over here, who wrote Leaves of Grass, which is a beautiful collection of poetry, well worth reading. And these are the gentlemen of the Transcendental period. But there were other male and female writers in the Transcendental period. These are just our three major ones. All right, so let's get to our game now that you have a little background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a quote, and you are going to determine if it's transcendental or Gothic. There's also like an image in there. And if it's transcendental, we will talk about which tenet of the philosophy the quote represents. And that's where you can maybe get some of your notes from, because it'll be helpful to you later on. So live in each season as it passes, breathe the air, drink the air, taste the fruit, and resign yourself to the influence of the earth. Is it Gothic or transcendental? It is transcendental. It's written by Henry David Thoreau, the under the chin beard guy. And so what tenet of Transcendentalism does this represent? So the tenet that it represents is the importance of nature. So Transcendentalists in their philosophy believe that humans should live in union with nature because nature offers truths that we cannot find elsewhere. And so when he is discussing here the idea of drinking in the drink in the air and experiencing what nature has to offer, the influences of the earth, he's discussing about becoming more unified with nature. So that's the first tenet. How about this image? Is it Gothic or transcendental? Yes, it is Gothic. So its portrayal of nature is very different from the slide we just had. Here, nature seems ominous and dangerous. We have these waves that look like it wants to swallow this power thingy. We have these dark clouds, and that could be a tornado right there. So it instead portrays nature as a threat as opposed to a source of knowledge. Yes, so Gothic. Very different perceptions of nature between the two. How about this one? We see God face to face every hour and know the Savior of nature. Yes, it's transcendental. So this is a Ralph Waldo Emerson quote, and the tenet that this one shows is that nature equals God. So nature connects us to God. So before we talked about how important it is for man to become unified with God. Why is that? The Transcendentalists believed that it was important for man to unify with God, with nature, because nature connects us to God. So if man becomes closer to nature, then man also becomes closer to God. And so the closer we are to nature, the closer we are to God. And in their writings, when they say nature, God, universe, or oversoul, all of this means the same thing. They're synonymous in transcendental philosophy. And so we see a lot of influences of Eastern religions when we read transcendental philosophy. For example, they bring in a great deal of Hindu beliefs into their philosophy. And there's the belief that God is everywhere, omnipresent, and therefore when we see God face to face every hour and we know the Savior of nature. It's the idea that if nature and God are one and nature is everywhere, then God is everywhere. And because of that, the Transcendentalists believe that there is no need for houses of worship. There is no need to go to church because you could just go outside and worship that way. All right. So how about this one? Standing on the bare ground, my head bathed by the blithe air and uplifted into infinite space, all mean egotism vanished. I become a transparent eyeball. Is it Gothic or is it transcendental? So this one's actually transcendental, and it brings us to our third tenet of transcendentalism, which is man is divine. And so it's the idea that if nature made humans, and nature is God, then essentially humans are like particles of God, where we all have some God in us, and therefore humans are divine. And the outcome of this is that humans are naturally good. So in Transcendentalist philosophy, when humans are born, when we're babies and children, we are good. And it's actually society as we age that corrupts us. And so here, what essentially Emerson wrote this is writing about is the idea that he becomes so one with nature that he becomes a transparent eyeball. He becomes part of nature, and he's able to see all that it has to offer because he becomes one with God. So that essentially man is capable of experiencing what it's like to be divine if they're able to kind of enlighten themselves enough to become one with nature. So there's like a higher knowledge that we can access. All right, so how about this one? I was a child and she was a child in this kingdom by the sea, but we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee, with a love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me. So is it transcendental or is it Gothic? It is Gothic. This is another Edgar Allan Poe kind of excerpt. And so here, this is definitely Gothic. It falls into the damsel in distress kind of stylistic element of Gothic literature, where the female character is perfect and angelic in every way, and therefore needs to be cared for and saved very often. So Gothic. Transcendentalists didn't really write about love or human relationships. They were super focused on nature. All right, so how about this one? Do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. So this is Ralph Waldo Emerson again. And the tenet that this brings us to is the power of our intuition, tenet number 4. So going off the previous tenet, since God is within us and man is capable of experiencing the divine, we will need to follow our intuition, as that's the best way to determine what's right or wrong. And so similarly to how they believed that you didn't need places of worship, they also believed that morality did not come from religious texts, laws, or society. Instead, morality came from within ourselves, because we are a part of nature, and therefore we have a part of God in us, and therefore we just have to listen to what our intuition tells us in order to become more moral. And so that's tenet number 4. The scariest monsters are ones that lurk within our souls. This might be feeling easy right now. Yes, this is another Edgar Allan Poe. So it's Gothic. Gothic literature stylistically is really interested in monsters and devils and demons, and we see that accessed here. All right, how about this one? A foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds, adored by little statesmen and philosophers and divines. With consistency, a great soul has simply nothing to do. Is it Gothic or transcendental? It is transcendental, and it's another Ralph Waldo Emerson quote. We have a lot of them because he's the father of Transcendentalism. So which tenet does this access? Tenet number 5, our second to last one, which is individuality and self-reliance. So this brings in the idea that conforming to society kills individuality. If going to nature allows us to become more ourselves and more in touch with our intuition and morality and God, society represents the opposite. It kills individuality and breaks us from nature, and therefore corrupts us and distances us from God and enlightenment. And so the answer to this is that Transcendentalists believed that people needed to reject artificial laws, customs, fashions, materials, technology, all that stuff was bad. Here they call it the hobgoblin of little minds, adored by little statesmen and philosophers and divines. So here they're talking about that those who conform, foolish consistency, so those who conform to society have little monsters in their minds that allow them to be controlled by society. And so instead he says, don't be consistent, go out and explore and follow your intuition and be a part of nature. Because in nature, humans are incorrupt and our intuition guides us to do the right thing. So you might see how these tenets are building and working together to kind of show the transcendental philosophy. All right, all that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream. Which one is it? It's Gothic. One more Edgar Allan Poe quote. Yes, so Gothic literature within the style of it oftentimes dealt with dreams. And then we have, what other dungeon is so dark as one's own heart? What jailer so inexorable as oneself? This is actually a different Gothic writer. It's Nathaniel Hawthorne. There's more than just Poe in the Gothic literary realm. And in this one, it uses that really intense emotion that's common to Gothic literature. And so this last one, I'm almost out of time, is Transcendentalism. It's Henry David Thoreau, and it brings us to our last tenet, which is the importance of now. So transcendental philosophers believe that the past is unimportant and that knowledge comes from experience. So knowledge from the past was their past experiences and not ours. So we have to live in the now and experience now in order to gain truth. And so that's the last tenet, and it comes from the idea of following your own drum. All right, bye.